often end up thinking something that has happened in the past. It could be something that you said or another person said or did to you in the past constantly for a very long time? Or do you fret about something that's going to happen in future? Let's say you think, how are you going to succeed tomorrow in that interview or in that presentation? If the answer to that is yes, then this video is just for you. In this video, we're going to talk about what overthinking is, why do we get into it, and how do we get out of that loop. So what is overthinking? Overthinking is thinking about a certain topic or a situation excessively for a very long period of time. You think about it so much that you're not able to concentrate or focus on anything else. That one topic or that one situation that you're thinking about that consumes your entire brain and you're literally not able to use it anywhere else. Now, this could be about a challenging event that's going to come, let's say an interview or maybe a presentation, or it could be about having a conversation with somebody, or it could also be about something that has already happened in the past. While some people think that overthinking could be helpful as it involves looking at an issue or a problem from different perspectives and anticipating all the possible future events, the opposite is true. You know why? Because instead of anticipating all the possible future events, we often end up thinking only the worst case scenario, and unintentionally, we often manifest them into our lives, which is like literally the worst, right? And also, if you look at the research, it says that overthinking is often associated with feelings of anxiety, depression, and PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. So what are the common types of overthinking? While everyone overthinks once in a while, there are some people who just can't ever seem to quiet the constant barrage of thoughts in their brain. So their inner monologue includes two destructive thought patterns. One is called ruminating and the other one is worrying. So ruminating involves rehashing the past. For example, I shouldn't have spoken up in the meeting. Everyone was looking at me and I looked like an idiot. I could have stuck it out at my old job. I would have been happier if I would have just stayed there. My parents always said I wouldn't amount to anything, and they were right. I should not have gotten married. I was happier and more cheerful anyway when I was single. Second type is worrying, and this involves negative, often catastrophic predictions about the future. It's like thinking, what if everything goes wrong? For example, I'm going to embarrass myself tomorrow when I give that presentation. My hands are going to shake, my face is going to turn red, and everyone will see that I'm incompetent. I'll never get promoted. It doesn't matter what I do. It's just not going to happen. You know what's even worse? Sometimes overthinkers don't just use to contemplate their lives. Sometimes they also have those images playing in their heads, which is indeed manifesting the wrong things unconsciously to our lives. So enough about the problems. Let's go to the solution. How do we come out of this overthinking loop? The first thing is you need to identify what is triggering you, and then how do you manage that trigger? What is creating such thoughts, or what is the root cause of that? Once you identify the trigger, you need to understand what's the feeling associated with that. Often it could be a fear or an anxiety, or it could also be sadness. Now, if you ask me what's the difference between fear and anxiety, fear is a threat which you are facing at the moment, and anxiety is a threat that you anticipate is going to happen to you in future. So in today's world, these threats are often the social risks. What's other person gonna think about you, or what's your friend gonna say, what's your mom gonna say, what society is going to say. And if it's not fear or anxiety, then it could also be sadness, possibly from an event that has already happened. Now, often these sort of events involve people who are close, and sometimes we fail to identify that those people could be toxic, and we often think about what they said or what we said or what happened, why that happened. But what's really important here to understand is people are not going to change. What you can change is how you are managing those emotions within yourself. And sometimes, if those close ones are toxic, you might have to literally move away from them. That's the only solution, and that is for your mental health. So, in short, what I'm trying to say is that event, whatever happened, that's in the past, and you need to move on. There's no point in thinking about it. There's no point in thinking how you could make it better or in future what you need to say. No point. People are not going to change, and this is only going to affect your mental health. So if it is about an event which is causing you sadness from past, I would say bury it and move on. Now, if it's fear or anxiety, then what you need to do is you need to jot down what are the common triggers. Let's say, for example, I am feeling that I'm not going to do well in my interview, which is tomorrow. And if I don't do well in my interview, I'm not going to get the project. And if I am on bench, then I will get fired and I will lose the job. Now here, the fear is I'm going to lose my job. And if I lose my job, I'm not going to have an income. And how am I going to pay my bills? So once you do this activity, then comes step 2, which is challenge your thoughts. Ask yourself, why are you feeling so? And then ask, is it even true? So often what happens is when we are thinking in these patterns, we feel that we are not good enough, or maybe we don't deserve such things. Or often these thoughts are extremely destructive. And at that time, what we need to do is change the way in which we are thinking. For example, at this point, I'm feeling that I'm not going to be able to crack tomorrow's interview because I'm feeling I'm not good enough. But that is just a feeling. If I wasn't good enough, I would not have gotten a job at the first place, right? So try and challenge your thoughts and understand that this is just a feeling and not a fact. Step 3 is manage your thoughts and take actions. Now, the framework that I like to use here is, first, I try and understand what exactly is bothering me. Once I have an answer to that, I ask the next question, why is it bothering me? So what I like to do here is I like to put 4 columns in my page. In the first column, I write what's the situation that is bothering me. In the second column, I write what's going to be the worst case scenario. In the third column, I write what's going to be the best case scenario. And in the fourth column, I tend to write what's most likely to happen. Let's say for our example, where I am thinking that tomorrow I'm going to lose my job, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? The worst thing is I am losing my job and I'm not getting a job in the near future. What's the best thing that's going to happen? If I'm feeling that I'm on bench and I might get fired, I start looking for a job and within a week I get another job. Now, what's most likely to happen? What's most likely to happen is tomorrow my interview might actually go well. Or maybe if I do end up getting fired, I might find another job in maybe a month. I feel this activity helps you look at the situation from multiple perspectives, not just the worst case scenario. You are able to look at it from the best case lens as well, and also what's most likely to happen or what's most probable to happen. Now, once you have all of these things jotted down, just try and ask yourself, is any of it in my control? Like, if I lose job, are the next steps in my control? Or maybe performing in tomorrow's interview, is that in my control? Often the answer to this is some part of it is in your control. Like, for example, in my case, for the interview, how I perform is somewhere in my control in terms of my preparation. But then at the same time, maybe it could also happen that what I have learned is not the questions that they ask. So there is a part of it which is beyond my control as well. So at this point, we need to focus on what is within our control and plan ahead as to what are going to be the next steps so I can mitigate that risk. So in my case, in my example, I have an interview tomorrow, which is a project interview, and I need to be prepared for that. What I could do is I could probably read about the client and try and understand what is it that they really want, and then maybe prepare for that. So, most of these interviews often ask about your previous experience, and that is what they really need. So, what I could do is I could just quickly go through what I have done, the achievements that I've gotten, and how have I solved different challenging problems at my workplace in my past work experience. Now, if I do that, if I'm doing the preparation which is required, what's most likely to happen is my interview might actually go well. And now, for the part which is not in your control, why bother? What's the point? You'll anyway not be able to do anything about it, right? Point number 4 is to enable your mind to look beyond and look at the bigger picture. A lot of it is just in your mind, and sometimes it's really hard to come out of it. Now, each of us have different scenarios playing in our minds in different phases of our lives. Now, what's most important is to realize that this is actually affecting your own mental health, and this has to stop. In some situations, we could have a strategy and a plan of action, for example, while you are preparing for the interview or a presentation. But there are a lot of situations where you might not really have a plan of action or a strategy to navigate through it. Now, this could be an argument that you had with one of your loved ones, and let's say the emotions took over that argument and both parties ended up saying things that they were not supposed to say. Now, tell me one thing, what's the point of thinking about that? The moment has gone and we need to move on as well. Sometimes it's really hard when you are the person who's hurt. But what's really funny is everybody feels that they are hurt and nobody really thinks about what they specifically said. So one thing that I've learned is we can never change other people. Rather, all what we can do is enable our mind to be strong and to be so strong that you have the ability to ignore and just move on. So one quote which resonates with me and has helped me navigate through these situations is, weak minds tend to take revenge. They keep thinking about the same thing, they spoil their mental health, and they tend to take revenge. Medium minds, they tend to forgive. But what we need to do is we need to enable our mind to become strong, that we are able to ignore and just move on with our lives. And sometimes it's really hard. It could be your partner, it could be your parents, it could be anybody. But what I have understood in my life is it's always better to escape out of the toxicity rather than being in the toxicity and trying to change the toxic people, because they will never realize it. So how do we enable our minds to actually become stronger? There are 3 things that we could do. First is dhyan, which is mindfulness. Second is bhakti, which is actually believing in a superpower. And third is gyan, which is actually improving your knowledge, your wisdom, and trying and understanding the situation or the world in a better way. If you do any of these, you automatically tend to create a protective shield around you. And if you can do all of the 3, it's even better. Your shield becomes way more stronger. It's very important to accept that sometimes even your very close ones could lie, could cheat, and could even betray you. And the only thing that's going to help you not become or not go to their level of toxicity is dhyan, bhakti, and gyan. So till now, we spoke about the overthinking and the long-term solutions to actually snap out of it. Now let's quickly talk about the short-term solutions, which is going to help you snap out of the overthinking and just quickly move to the present. So the first one is have some cues in your mind, which basically reminds you that you are entering into the overthinking loop, and consciously you need to accept that you are overthinking and you need to snap out of it by doing another activity. So this activity eventually becomes your distraction, which is distracting you from not getting into the loop of overthinking and rather focus on what is more important and what needs to be focused on at the moment. Another thing which I like to do is I like to have some anchors which reminds me that I am entering into the loop of overthinking, and the moment I hold on to that, I am able to bring back my mind and my concentration into what I am doing. Now, this could be a pendant or an anxiety ring. I just like to rub that pendant by holding it between my fingers, or if I'm wearing the anxiety ring, I just like to fidget around with that. And this has really helped me to bring back my focus into what I am doing and what is really important to me. So, overthinking is a habit which is actually quite difficult to break out of. But with conscious efforts and determination that you can actually do it, you can do it. Let me know in the comments below, what do you do when you notice yourself in this overthinking loop? Let's have a conversation down in the comment section and help each other to get out of this loop. Because, like I said, if you're thinking about an event which has happened in the past, there is no point. If you're thinking about an event which is going to happen in future, it's always better to think about everything, which is best case, worst case, and what's most likely to happen, and probably create an action plan which really works for you. So rather than looking at just the worst case scenarios, it's always better to look at the possibilities that could happen. So attending challenges with that curious mind, with that experimental mindset, can always help in breaking out of this overthinking loop. With that, we come to an end to this video. Thank you so much for watching. This is me, Athulya Nair, signing off. Ciao!